Hey guys, welcome in Monday, or is it Tuesday? I don't even know anymore. It is Tuesday. Where's my head been? Where's the week gone, right? It's not even hump day yet. We're already behind a day. But that said, let's do the two-type player pool, and I'll try to cut out the mumbo jumbo you guys have heard so much, talking about ownership and projections and how much we're using those, because it cuts out time that we could be researching, yada, yada, yada. Let's just dive in. Let's not do any frills or any fancy stuff, and just get the player pool out of the way. Easiest thing to do. It's early in the day. As lineups confirm, you know as well as I do that these things are going to change. So just be careful with that. Don't take this for gospel yet. But let's do optimal mode, 2 uniques, 5 lineups, and let's go clicking through. No stacking. Click those ownership projections, bring the top up, uncheck everybody, and go position by position. Rodon, Verlander, maybe Jeffrey Springs, maybe Scooble could be paired with some of these guys. You might go, obviously best if it doesn't skimp your bats to put $20,000 toward them. You might be better off with these two at the top anyway. But we'll include a couple of other options just to build some lineups. Contreras, maybe Kirk, maybe Will Smith. I'm going to expand that player pool today on a big slate. When ownership's watered down, we can include some more choices. Again, we just want to stay towards the top. We don't want these guys down here. We just want to stay towards the top. Vlad, Shohei Ohtani, Schwindel, sure. Don't need Luke Voigt. Since he's close, I would check his game logs, because a week ago he was performing very consistently, and he would be somebody projecting well at a lower ownership that I would say is the chalk is missing him, right? Like they're too focused on the power of Guerrero and Ohtani and the brand name, and they're missing Luke Voigt, who, if he's making, getting more 6s and 9s and stuff in his fantasy points, he's helping more at 3K than a 6 or a 9 does at 5K, or God forbid 6K for Ohtani. It's very expensive stack pieces. Leury Garcia is fine as a pivot play off of the expensive guys here. So you're giving the optimizer an option, right? It can see where it goes at other positions and see what it's trying to do and what it's trying to accumulate to build you the best lineup possible. If you want to include Trevor Story, that's fine. Make sure he's still hot. Devers has been a pretty good cash game guy week in and week out. Austin Riley comes and goes. He may be back in favor. Probably don't need anybody else. I really like to keep my eyes on DJ LeMahieu as a stack, as a cash piece. But, if he's not going well, I'm not going to include him at lower ownership. I would only include those guys at lower ownership if they're also hot, if they're also producing day in and day out and they're going well. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to gamble on them. Dansby Swanson, especially if he gets a bump up to the 1 or 2 hole tonight, would be very important. Bryce Harper, Ian Happ, these guys up towards the top. See, this ownership's really watered down tonight, so we can get down to those 10% guys. Cedric Mullins even, and then maybe just call it right there. It's hard to say no to Aaron Judge, but let's do it for now. Let's just see how this works. Let's knock a big old 1/100th of a point off of a couple of these guys and see what happens. We'll run those 5 lineups, and we'll see where we stand. Spriggs, it loves Springs. Interesting. Schwarber, it likes him. Patrick Wisdom, it actually alternated between Rodon and Verlander, it looks like, but kept Springs in there for the value. So it's good to see. Only a real tight core today. Only a few people that the optimizers liked in every single lineup. So we're going to get some variety. And again, on Draftkings, it's nice. We don't see any 5 stacks or 4 stacks or anything. We see some even spread across different offenses. This is going to help you. There's 4 Chicago bats, though. But even spread is going to help you cash more lineups, because it raises your floor. Yes, it lowers your ceiling, but it raises your floor. And that's what helps you win cash games. Ceiling doesn't matter in cash games. But there, that method worked just fine. 28 players for DraftKings. Rewind the video, watch it back if you need to write those players down, or just wait till the end of the day when it's closer to lock time and you can get those confirmed. And that's when those ownerships will change. And then just run the methodology for yourself. That's the easiest way to do it, quite honestly. Same thing. Bring them all to the top once we've kicked off 5 lineups, 2 uniques. Uncheck everybody. Go pitcher. Rodon and Verlander. Look at that. 3-1 almost over Verlander. That's interesting. That requires some thought. That one requires some thought. Verlander is Verlander, and Rodon, is he that much better? Who's more consistent? Just for the sake of argument, I'll include them both, because personally I would look at them both and treat them I mean, if Rodon is that much more consistent than Verlander, I'd be stunned. So, I mean, he may have more upside. I have no idea. Hard to say somebody has more upside than Verlander going up against a weaker offense like Seattle, but you got a weak offense in Colorado too. So we'll see how it goes. I would include him. Would I include Kirk? Probably not. 11%, depending on where my first basemen are. Nope, looks like I need to because I've only got 2 options here. I would like a third option, so we'll include Kirk. And the catcher and first base combined allows us to do that. Baez, I can't stand for cash games unless he's hitting well, which he might be now. He wasn't a week and a half ago. There's a couple of guys giving us some options at second base. You know, somewhere between 3 to 5, the top 3 to 5 owned guys. But if I see a big drop off, I'm going to take it. This 2% almost break point, I'll just stop there. These 3 guys will be good enough. As long as, especially if I've got a cheaper guy in there, I don't need Willie Castro. If he leads off, great. But he's a little needle dick hitter that probably isn't going to do a whole lot for you anyway, except maybe cover that salary. If he does, great, you can pay up elsewhere. If you want to include him personally, you can. But methodology, I would probably stick on just those guys. I'd probably just stick on these 4 as well. 9.6 rounds up to 10. There's Willie Castro. What the hell? Let's go ahead and include him. Teoscar, Joey Gallo. Hate including him for cash games. When he's lower owned, under 20-25% owned, I'll usually uncheck his ass. Judge, that's a me thing, though. If you want to include him for yourself, go ahead and include him. Enough people will be playing him. Jordan Alvarez is fine. Giancarlo Stanton's fine. JD Martinez. Look at the difference between Fanduel and Draftkings. I mean, Fanduel and Draftkings, you can take names like Mike Trout, but all the way down here. Look at all the names you're including because you can afford them. That amazes me. I guess this just changed, and now Joey Gallo is the chalk outfield. Please. That's for tournaments, that's fine, but man, for cash games, you're doing it wrong if you play a lot of Joey Gallo in cash. But click off the 5, see where it lands. Loves it, some Rodon. Looks like we've got Dalbec, Baez, Ohtani. Whew, a little rough. I'm looking for more consistency than these guys can sometimes give, but I've only got 3 Houston bats. That lineup's fine. I don't have 3 of any other team. That lineup's fine. No, 3 of that team. That lineup's fine. This lineup is fine. So it's producing good lineups, producing good, heavily owned cash game type lineups. That's awesome. And so the methodology works. You pick any one of these, lineups that you want. Let's say you take a look. You say, I don't want Ohtani. He's in the utility spot. That's even more perfect. So now I've got max options, max flexibility. I can use Trout instead. If I wanted to use somebody else, like a JD Martinez or a Stanton or somebody else, it's fine. Just take old Trouty and swap them in. And the next thing you know, bada bing, bada boom, you've got yourself a more consistent cash game player most times. And you didn't change much of the lineup. This is how you can tweak it, make it your own, and say this is the lineup you settle on, and say, I don't like Javi Baez either. I can put in Willie Castro there and lead off and whatever, but, that's up to you into what you're going to do or how you're going to make it work. But once you settle on that lineup and it used this player pool of, 28 players again, boom, move it right on into your cash games, let it roll. This is what's producing the 24-18 record. We'll get back to tracking some maybe tonight or not. Had a busy week or so outside of what I normally do with a lot of other stuff we're working on behind the scenes, so that's a good thing. This should get you going, get you turned around if you're struggling with your cash games. And it took us 10 minutes to do both sites, right? It just doesn't have to take that long. And that's the whole point. When it takes 5 minutes to produce a good competitive cash lineup, sometimes you can argue that all that digging, all that game log hunting, all of the stat looking, everything else is sort of a waste of time, because if I'm crushing at 67% win rate here, what do I want? 70%? Yes. But is it worth putting 3 hours of work in to get that extra 3% of ROI? No, I'm not swinging $10,000 a day on my budget out there. I'm only, tops putting $100 out there. So it's going to get me an extra $3 of profit for 3 hours. That's $1 an hour. To me, that's a law of diminishing returns. I have found a hyper simple way that produces incredibly competitive lineups. It works. It's transferable for any skill level, any body, and it keeps you in the hunt competing with the Sharks, and it only took you 5 minutes per website to do it. I don't know what else you could be asking for in terms of profitability or anything else. If you're trying to push the 67 to 70 to 72 to quest for perfection, you're going to be spending an awful lot of time doing it. To me, that time is not worth spent. I'd rather cut my grass. I'd rather go do some other things. And this is essentially in a nutshell from front to back. So enjoy. Have a good day. Have a good Tuesday. Obviously, if this is a free video and you want to be a member, you come to dfsarmy.com, use coupon code DFSARMY, get your 10% off discount, come in here and ask us questions. We'd be happy to talk to you about more strategy when it comes to tournaments and where do I make my pivots from? Now that I've got my cash lineups, now that I know where everybody is, where do I make my pivots from? What stacks do I key on? Where are those cheat sheets? How do I use those tools better when I am deciding between player A or player B? That's what we help you decide inside the GPP rooms at dfsarmy.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you there too. Peace out, homies. We will see you on the other side.